This I type it backwards. Sends the song.
Abhihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privajakacarya Aso Tartata Shri Śrimad Wisdom, His Divine Grace Shilabhai Charanar Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ISKCON's found BBT founder Acharya Jagadguru Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Haribol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Daksha, text number 21. Hare Krishna. Vaksasi, Adisrita, Vadhu. Can this be heard through the speaker in the temple room?
Yeah, it's sounding really good through this.
I hear in the temple room. Is it coming through the speakers?
It's quiet. Yeah.
Vadhu, Vanamali, Udara, Hasa, Avaloka, Kalaya, Ramayan, Cha, Vishvam, Parshva, Brahmat, Yajana Chamara, Rajahamsa, Sveta Atapatra, Sasina, Upari, Rajamana, Vakshasya Drisritatvid Vadurvana Mali Udara
Shastya Drishita Patur Manamal Yudara
Asavaloka Kalaya Ramayam Chavisvam
Savaloka Kalaya Ramayam Shavishvam
Parshva Brahmad Vyajana Chamara Rajahamsa
Parshva Brahman Vidyana Chamana Raja Hamsa
Svetat Patra Sasinopari Rajamana
Tata Patta Shashino Parirajamanaha
Vakshashi Adusrita Vadurvana Mali Udara
Shasya Ishita Patur Manamal Yudara
Asavaloka Kalaya Ramayam Chavisvam
Asavaloka Kalaya Ramayam Shavishvam
Parshva Brahmad Vyajana Chamara Rajahamsa
Parshva Brahman Vyajana Chamara
Svetat Patatra Sasino Parirajamana Vakshashi Adrisrita Vadurvana Mali Udara Asavaloka Kalaya Ramayam Chavisvam
Asavaloka Kalaya Ramayam Shavishvam
Parshva Brahmad Vyajana Chamara Rajahamsa Svetat Patra Sashino Parirajamana
Shashadishita Vadurvana Malchudara Hasavaloka Kalyana Mayam Shavishvam Harshva Brahman Chamara Raja Hamsa Svekata Bhakta Shashino Parirajamana
Vakshasya Deshati Vadurvanamalyudara Asavaloka Kalayaramayamsha Vishvam
Asavaloka Kalayaramayamsha Vishvam
Parshva Brahmadhyajana Rajahamsa
Harshva Brahmadhyajana Chamra Raja Hamsa
Vetapatra Shashino Parirajamana
Svetata Patta Shashino Parirajamanaha Yakshashadisrita Vadurvanamal Yudara Hasavaloka Kalaya Ramayamscha Vishvam Harshva Brahman Vijana Chamara Raja Hamsa Shvetata Patta Shashino Parirajamanaha
Ladies, Aditya, you want to try? Vakshashi on the chest, Adhishrita situated, Vadhu a woman, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, Vanamali garlanded with forest flowers, Udara beautiful, Asa smiling, Avaloka glance, Kalaya with a small part, Ramayan pleasing, Cha and Vishvam the whole world, Parshva side, Brahmat moving back and forth, Vyajana Chamara white yak-tail hair for fanning, Rajahamsa swan, Sweta Atapatra Sasina with a white canopy like the moon, Upari above, Rajamana looking beautiful. Translation: Lord Vishnu looked extraordinarily beautiful because the goddess of fortune and a garland were situated on his chest. His face was beautifully decorated with a smiling attitude which can captivate the entire world, especially the devotees. Fans of white hair appeared on both sides of the Lord like white swans, and the white canopy overhead looked like the moon. Let us all say together responsively, Lord Vishnu looked extraordinarily beautiful. Because the goddess of fortune and a garland were situated on his chest. His face was beautifully decorated with a smiling attitude which can captivate the entire world, especially the devotees. Fans of white hair appeared on both sides of the Lord like white swans, and the white canopy overhead looked like the moon. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The smiling face of Lord Vishnu is pleasing to the whole world. Not only devotees, but even non-devotees are attracted by such a smile. This verse nicely describes how the sun, moon, eight-petaled lotus flower, and humming black bees were represented by the fans of hair, the overhead canopy, the moving earrings on both sides of his face, and his blackish hair. Altogether accompanied by the conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, bow, arrows, shield, and sword in his hands, these presented a grand and beautiful audience for Lord Vishnu, which captivated all the demigods, including Daksha and Lord Brahma. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umlitam Dhyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapidam Dhyena Bhutale Svayam Rupaganamayam Didati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Dam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Dibyad Brindaranya Kalpadrumada Śrīmad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Śrīmad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prastalabi Sevyamano Smarami Pakshasi Adrisrita Vadur Vana Mali Udara Asavaloka Kalaya Ramayam Shavishvam Parshva Brahman Vyajana Chamara Raja Hamsa Svetatta Patra Sasino Pari Rajamana. Lord Vishnu looked extraordinarily beautiful because the goddess of fortune and a garland were situated on his chest. His face was beautifully decorated with a smiling attitude which can captivate the entire world, especially the devotees. Bands of white hair appeared on both sides of the Lord like white swans, and the white canopy overhead looked like the moon. Lord Narayan has appeared in the sacrificial arena of Prajapati Daksha, albeit after the great strife and turmoil previously, and the attempt to settle things and set things right. And Prabhupada has mentioned in verse 19 that the description of Narayan is given in the following two shlokas. His complexion was blackish, his garment yellow like gold, and his helmet as dazzling as the sun. His hair was bluish, the color of black bees, and his face was decorated with earrings. His 8 hands held a conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, arrow, bow, shield, and sword, and they were decorated with golden ornaments such as bangles and bracelets. His whole body resembled a blossoming tree, beautifully decorated with various kinds of flowers. So the Lord's personality all of his attributes, all of his qualities that can be perceived when one has his darshan. This is the culmination of all and perfection of all sight and vision. There are many places in the Vedic literatures, in Śrimad Bhāgavatam in particular, where the Lord's appearance is described similarly in relationship to eclipsing and or encompassing the most beautiful aspects of natural phenomena, how the Lord's personality and his presence, the qualities of his transcendental form, by far surpass all that is beautiful to be perceived in this world or in any other. Once when Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk and a devotee was remarking on how beautiful the surroundings were, the landscape, the sunrise, Prabhupada said, yes, it is very beautiful, but we're not concerned with so much the beauty of nature, but we are concerned with the one who has created and is the origin of this beauty. When Lord Krishna entered into Dwarka, he had fought the battle of Kurukshetra and helped his devotees, the Pandavas, in their capital in Hastinapur, New Delhi. Dwarka is always on the complete opposite western side of the country. And when he finally came home, it was a very great, wonderful festival for all of the residents of Dwarka. When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went up to the roofs of their palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival. To have a look at the Lord is a great festive occasion, undoubtedly. So we see, particularly in the transcendental dhams of the Lord, such as Vrindavan, how enthusiastic pilgrims, and what to speak of the residents, those who stay all the time there, to see the Lord's darshan in the temple. What to speak of seeing the Lord face to face, that the devotion and faith of highly evolved persons, authorized bona fide residents of the Holy Dham, and those who take the trouble to travel to these places, how much importance and reverence and great transcendental, highly placed anticipation they have in seeing the deity of the Lord. Especially during the days of Julan and Janmashtami ceremonies, the devotees in India still throng up in great number at the temple of the Lord, where his transcendental eternal form is worshipped. The transcendental form of the Lord installed in a temple is not different from the Lord personally. Such a form of the Lord is called Archa Vigraha, or Archa Incarnation, and is expanded by the Lord by his internal potency just to facilitate the devotional service of his innumerable devotees who are in the material world. And Prabhupada goes on to explain that in our materially contaminated state, we cannot perceive the spiritual nature of the Lord, and therefore the Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, which is apparently made of material elements like earth, wood, and stone, but actually there is no material contamination. Great occurrences which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself relished hearing. There's an entire chapter called The Activities of Shakshi Gopal, where the deity of the Lord to bear witness for that which was actually the truth and not false. That's a whole story in and of itself. Walked hundreds and even thousands of kilometers, much to the astonishment of those who couldn't believe such a thing was possible, and spoke directly what was actually the truth. The Lord being Kaivalya, one alone, there is no matter in him. He is one without a second, and therefore the Almighty Lord can appear in any form without being contaminated by the material conception. Therefore, festivities in the temple of the Lord, as held generally, are like festivals performed during the festive days of the Lord of Dwarka about 5,000 years ago. So we see just here on Gorpanim, for example, the great enthusiasm of the devotees. We want to give a special shout out to Braj Mohan, who is very much absorbed in worship of the Lord's deity form. He has been residing in the Holy Dham to imbibe and learn and to increase his knowledge and ability to serve the Lord in such a way that to present the Lord's personal presence, that not only will the Lord be, well, by that the Lord will be greatly pleased, and by the Lord's pleasure, all of the devotees, it's mentioned in today's verse, that the Lord's smile is liked by everyone. Prabhupada writes in one place that the atmosphere in the temple should be so soothing and wonderful that all of those outside in the material world coming in will immediately feel the relief and be attracted to the form of the Lord and lose their attraction for material allurements of so-called beauty, that which is temporary. The Lord's beauty is eternal and ever increasing, whereas beauty in the material world is temporary and always diminishing. The authorized acharyas who know the science perfectly install such temples of the Lord under regulative principles just to facilitate to the common man. But persons who are less intelligent, without being conversant with this science, mistake this great attempt to be idol worship. And here is quite the, I think this is still in vogue, what to speak of when Prabhupada wrote this some 63 or more years ago. Poke their nose into that which they have no access. Therefore, the ladies or men who observe festivals in the temples of the Lord just to have a look at the transcendental form are 1,000 times more glorious than those who are non-believers in the transcendental form of the Lord. The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated. When the ladies of the city of Dwarka got up on the roofs of their palaces, they never thought that they had previously many times seen the beautiful body of the infallible Lord. This indicates that they have no cessation in desiring to see the Lord. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. People spend fabulous amounts of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, to make some incredible entertainment presentation, blockbuster movie, or a Broadway play and musical or something. But how many times can somebody watch? or after a while, then no more sales. The Broadway show closes. It had a nice run. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. The law of satiation acts materially, but there is no scope for it in the spiritual realm. The word infallible is significant here because although the Lord has mercifully descended on earth, he is still infallible. The living entities are fallible because when they come in contact with the material world, they lack their spiritual identity, and thus the body materially obtained becomes subjected to birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration, and annihilation under the laws of nature. They say to someone who is physically older, if they're acting like a young person, of course, invariably they're doing it in a licentious way, but act your age. So a devotee is not, a pure devotee is acting on the spiritual platform based on self-realization. So they are not to be identified, or they don't identify themselves with the transformations of the material body. And look at the life of such a great personality as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was clearly the leader, yet it was of many respectable personalities, by far, by age calculation, superior to him. When he was even just a teenager, he was clearly the superior personality. Or here in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, 16-year-old boy, all the elders and respectable seniors of the entire universe, without any argument or compunction, he is elected to the seat of Vyas. He is the qualified person to sit and instruct us all. The Lord's body is not like that. Birth, growth, transformation, deterioration, etc., under the laws of nature. He descends as he is, and he is never under the law of material modes. His body is the source of everything that be, the reservoir of all beauties beyond our experience. No one, therefore, is satiated by seeing the transcendental body of the Lord, because there are always newer manifestations of newer and newer beauties. Pure devotee, it doesn't matter the external accoutrements. But for the people in general, what to speak of the sincere, aspiring sadhaka bhaktas, proper temple worship is required. Before Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan and established the Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world and all over the world, the temples of Vrindavan, say in the memory of Shyamasundar Prabhu, who was one of the first devotees to accompany Prabhupada to Vrindavan, it looked like the place was abandoned. And the deities were, they did like unclean dress, nothing looked fresh and new. But when Prabhupada opened the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and Prabhupada insisted on an immaculate, very high level of cleanliness and purity, and following all the rules and regulations of deity worship, he more or less forced all the other principal temples of Vrindavan to come up to the same standard, or at least know that they better try. Put them in a kind of transcendental place of embarrassment. And to date, the Krishna Balaram Mandir is the premier temple in Vrindavan to visit. And what to speak of all of over India and all over the world. And Prabhupada made that standard for all of his temples, 108 in his manifest presence, and how many temples now in the nearly 50 years since he has left us. There's been a very wonderful effort here in Sri Sri Radha Govinda Mandir for many, many years to have a very substantial standard of opulent dress and decoration, jewelry, etc., for their Lordship Sri Sri Radha Govinda. And even though without all those things, the newer and newer beauties, as described here, manifest in the Lord. It's also described in today's verse how the Lord was beautiful because there was the goddess of fortune was on his chest. You see many temples in India is just a deity of Krishna. But in the temples of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Radha and Krishna is always present with Srimati Radharani. There is a description in the Krishna book, in the Rasa dance section. Krishna alone is not particularly beautiful, but when he is in the presence of Srimati Radharani, then he becomes especially beautiful. No one, therefore, is satiated by seeing the transcendental body of the Lord, because there are always manifestations of newer and newer beauties. So Sri Sri Radha Govinda, they have so many different dresses that, practically speaking, I don't know, someone could educate me to the number, but if you do one on a particular day and go through all the dresses, how many days would it be to the next one? Like 2 months, 3 months? Just the day dresses, and not as many, but also a very large number of night dresses. Krishna is always beautiful, but in a particular color, in a particular sequence, and a particular devotee who is dressing their particular, not even their style, but actually more to the point is their mood, their bhav, we can perceive. And it becomes a very wonderful gift to the devotees and people in general who see their lordships thus loved and worshipped by the Pujari. The transcendental form, qualities, entourage, etc. are all spiritual manifestations, and there is no satiation in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Similarly, the sound incarnation of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it's the same 16 words, 32 syllables, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, yet sung in different ragas, melodies, and different rhythmic patterns. It's described in the Krishna Bhavanamrita Mahakavya, which is a glorious literature by Srila Vishwanath Chakravartipad, a very great acharya, an important link in our sampradaya, that Krishna and his associates relished chanting in unlimited numbers of different ragas and beats. Some simple, some complicated. The same Mahamantra. Similarly, the literary incarnation of the Lord, the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, and allied Vedic literatures. One can go on hearing and chanting forever and always get newer and newer meaning and enjoyment from these texts. It's not like Prabhupada would say, you read the newspaper and that's it, it's thrown in the trash. You want to read yesterday's newspaper again today? That's disgusting. Forget it. Prabhupada was asked one time by the disciples, what book will you translate next? And Prabhupada said, I think I will do the Bhagavad Gita. But Srila Prabhupada, you've already done the Bhagavad. And Prabhupada, he said, more or less, as I can remember, we can have hundreds of different Bhagavad Gitas. And here in this chapter 11, just as we're hearing today, in the 7th chapter of the 4th canto, the Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. My dear Narada, I regret that in this present life you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in devotional service can hardly see me. But the more you hanker for me, the more you will advance in Krishna consciousness and have my full darshan again. We go on seeing so-called beautiful things throughout our entire life, but such things cannot satisfy us because they're incompatible with the innermost stratum of our soul. But when we see the Lord, then all of our desires are fulfilled. After this pastime here in the 4th canto comes to its completion, we will move on to the devotional service of Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to seek out the Lord's darshan, ultimately for a material reason. He wanted revenge, and he wanted a high position, basically speaking. And he underwent such extreme austerities that he blocked the universal breathing. Everyone's breathing became impaired, and the demigods headed by Lord Brahma appealed to Lord Vishnu. First, what is the problem? And please solve it. And the Lord Vishnu, Prishni Garbha, there is still a place in Braj Mandal Parikram, Dhruva Tila, Dhruva Ghat, you can visit, the place where Dhruva Maharaj performed his austerities, and the Lord appeared to him. And the Lord was prepared to grant his desire. You can get a position even greater than Lord Brahma. Revenge against his stepmother was arranged. But he was ashamed, and he didn't want it even. He said, I was looking for a broken piece of glass, but now that I've received your darshan, I've gotten a very valuable jewel. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting place for the administrative demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship. There are different classes of human beings, all seeking different enjoyments from different objects. There are persons who are seeking after the favor of the goddess of fortune, and for them the Vedic literatures give information that the Lord is always served with all reverence by thousands and thousands of goddesses of fortune at the Chintamani Dham. And Prabhupada has given us, we're all going to say together because I know we all know this, Chintamani Pakarasad Mushakalpa Vriksha Lakshmi Savrateshu Surabir Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindamari Pursham tamaham bhajami. It's on this, I can't see, is it this one here? Yes, and Jayadvaita Maharaj was giving the class on Madhavendra Puri's disappearance day, and here the Pujari is following Gopinath, soon to be known as Shir Chor Gopinath's direction, to find the pot of sweet rice that he had stolen and hid behind his curtain and give it to Madhavendra Puri. And the artist, I remember who the artist was, but I forget, I don't want to guess, make a mistake, was painting the painting here in Radha Govinda temple, which was at 439 Henry Street. At the time, Radha Govinda were the model, and here we see this Brahma Samhita verse is there with them. The transcendental abode of the Lord, where the trees are all desire trees and buildings are made of touchstone. The Lord Govinda is engaged in herding the Sarabi cows as his natural occupation. Prabhupada one time was saying that his German godbrother, who met the London devotees in the early 1930s and was initiated there by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's Saraswati Thakur's permission and direction. That was a Ritvik initiation. Not going to say, not going to open that up. Get all of the, open up the party store, open the can, and all of the monsters spring out. So that was Sadhananda, later to become a Maharaj. And he had been to India, and he had seen all the different demigods, and they're like, with weapons and, like doing some task. But then when he saw Krishna playing the flute, taking care of the cows, he realized this is the Supreme Personality of God. Everything is all automatically done. Krishna doesn't have anything to do, but when it comes to who is going to tend the Sarabi cows, Krishna raises his hand. I'll do that. Natural occupation. These goddesses of fortune can be seen automatically if we are attracted by the bodily features of the Lord. So we don't seek out the goddess of fortune separately, like Ravana or other demons or that type of demoniac mentality. Prabhupada instructed the devotees in the male body that they should see the devotees in the female body to be not objects of enjoyment, but they're representative of the devotees in the male body, or all devotees, but their supreme queen and majesty, Srimati Radharani, and should be dealt with and be respected accordingly. They can be seen automatically if you're attracted by the bodily features of the Lord. The impersonalists cannot observe such goddesses of fortune because of their dry, speculative habit. And those who are artists overtaken by the beautiful creation should better see the beautiful face of the Lord for complete satisfaction. So we have everything we need to completely satisfy our desire to see beauty by seeing Sri Sri Radha Govinda. We don't have to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and wander through the whole thing and look at, all what's in there. The face of the Lord is the embodiment of beauty. What they call beautiful nature is but his smile, and what they call the sweet songs of the birds are but specimens of the whispering voice of the Lord. How are we doing? The essence of everything is the Supreme Lord. He is called the Saram. And those who sing and talk about him are called the Sarangas. How's all you Sarangas doing out there today? Good? Okay. Or the pure devotees. The pure devotees are always hankering after the lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus has a kind of honey which is transcendently relished by the devotees. They are like the bees who are always after the honey. Srila Rupa Goswami, the great devotee acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, has sung a song about this lotus honey, comparing himself to the bee. Quote, "O my Lord Krishna, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly, therefore, give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet, which are the reservoirs for all transcendental honey. I know that even big demigods like Lord Brahma do not see the rays of the nails of your lotus feet, even though they are engaged in deep meditation for years together. Still, O infallible one, my ambition is such, for you are very merciful to your surrendered devotees. O Madhava, I know also that I have no genuine devotion to the service of your lotus feet, but because your lordship is inconceivably powerful, you can do what is impossible to be done. Your lotus feet can deride even the nectar of the heavenly kingdom, and therefore I am very much attracted by them. O Supreme Eternal, please therefore let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet, so that eternally I may be able to relish the taste of your transcendental service. The devotees are satisfied with being placed at the lotus feet of the Lord and have no ambition to see his all-beautiful face or aspire for the protection of the strong arms of the Lord. They are humble by nature, and the Lord is always leaning towards such humble devotees. As the Lord passed along the public road of Dwarka, his head was protected from the sunshine by a white umbrella. White feathered fans moved in semicircles, and showers of flowers fell upon the road. His yellow garments and garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud were surrounded simultaneously by sun, moon, lightning, and rainbows. The sun, moon, rainbow, and lightning do not appear in the sky simultaneously. When there is sun, the moonlight becomes insignificant. And if there are clouds and a rainbow, there is no manifestation of lightning. The Lord's bodily you is just like a new monsoon cloud. He is compared herein to the cloud. The white umbrella over his head is compared to the sun. The movement of the bunch hair fan of flukes is compared to the moon. The showers of flowers are compared to the stars. His yellow garments are compared to the rainbow. So all these activities of the firmament, being impossible simultaneous factors, cannot be adjusted by comparison. The adjustment is possible only when we think of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. The Lord is all-powerful, and in his presence, anything impossible can be made possible by his inconceivable energy. But the situation created by the time of his passing on the roads of Dwarka was beautiful and cannot be compared to anything besides the description of natural phenomena. Thank you very much. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Deva Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Haribol.